ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So in the last verse we saw that how the sons of Brahma, they all prayed to the Supreme Personality of Godhead that the father who had deviated from proper moral etiquettes, he should come back to his proper senses, and that is only possible by the mercy of the Lord. So that is what they had prayed to the Lord. And here we find, by the grace of the Lord, Brahmaji realized his mistake. And then, when he saw that all his sons are speaking in that way, he became very much ashamed of his action. Actually, he had just contemplated in his mind. He had not done anything grossly. But even then, he became very much ashamed of his action, whatever he had done. And then, Tatyaja Virididas Tada. Immediately, he gave up his body, Tanvam. Tanvam means the body. And that sinful body, which had contemplated about this unrestricted sexual intercourse with one's own daughter, it became dissipated and it became like a dark fog. So that is what is being described here, and we will try to understand what Prabhupada says in the purport about this. So, one very important point to understand is that not just to indulge, even to contemplate is considered to be so sinful. Of course, in Kali Yuga, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given a concession that even though we may be from the most sinful life, the best form of prayaschitta to get rid of all that sinful life is just to chant the holy name of the Lord. One devotee approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he has been totally rejected from the Hindu society, Brahmana society, because the Muslim people, they have sprinkled some water on his head. So from that time, he has been removed from the Hindu society and he has been considered as converted into Muslim. So when he wanted to find out how he can go back to that society once again, so one of the Brahmanas suggested he should drink 1 kg of molten lead. So there is a metal, lead. So he should drink 1 kg of molten lead. That is his prayaschitta. He went to another Brahmana. He said, you should drink 1 kg of hot ghee, and that will be your prayaschitta. You see, boiling ghee has to drink. And then he approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He asked, what should I do? This is what these people are telling. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, you simply go to Vrindavan and chant the holy name of the Lord. That is your real prayaschitta. So actually that is a concession for the people in Kali Yuga, that even though Kali Yuga is filled with faults. Who remembers that verse from Bhagavatam? Kali Yuga is filled with faults. Kaler dosh nidhe rajan. Nidhe means it is a ocean. It is a huge. So Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults. But what is the most important thing it says? Kirtanad eva krishnasya Muktaha Sangaha Param Rajet. We can very easily get out of that association of that faulty mentality just by chanting the holy name of the Lord. So, here we are seeing Prabhupada is describing the best way to compensate for one's sinful life is to give up one's body. That sinful body, the sinful mind with which we have contemplated all these sinful actions, we should give it up. And Prabhupada is saying that is, Brahma has shown by his own example that even though he had fabulous duration of life, because his body had committed grievous sins, and he had not actually committed much with his sins, with his body, but with his mind, he just contemplated. But he gave that up. And Prabhupada is saying that is the best way to compensate for one's sinful act. Once Prabhupada was having a morning walk with some of his disciples. So there was one sannyasi disciple of Prabhupada, Panchadravida Swami. So all these devotees, they were walking with Prabhupada. And then he asked, Prabhupada, it is said in the Vedic literatures, as you have quoted, that even love matra sadhu sangha sarva siddhi hoye. That even if you associate little with the spiritual master, love matra means actually it is even less than a second. So how is it possible, how is it practical to understand that even that much association with a pure devotee of the Lord can give you, full perfection in your life? So then Prabhupada explained. So Prabhupada said, a pure devotee of the Lord, he is like a matchstick. And a proper candidate, a sincere candidate, he is like a dry wood. So the moment there is matchstick, fire is there, and if the wood is properly dry wood, there is immediately fire. So Prabhupada said similarly, pure devotee is like that matchstick. Even 1 second, there can be fire. See, just with the association of matchstick, the fire can kindle, provided we remain dry. You see? So, we also need to be sincere if we want to take advantage of pure devotees' association. That is what we have to understand. So then Prabhupada said, the moment you bring any wood, let us say, okay, we are not dry wood, we are all sinful people. Then Prabhupada says, the moment you bring any kind of wood near the fire, it will dry up. But problem is, even if it dries up, you make it wet once again. That is the whole problem. With the fire of Krishna consciousness, definitely our sinful life, we have wetted our life with sinful activities. It can become dry. But again and again we become wet. So Prabhupada says that is the whole problem. So the process of Krishna consciousness is the drying process of contemplating and indulging in sensual activities is wetting process. So this is the problem going on. With Krishna consciousness we are constantly trying to dry it, but at the same time constantly we are wetting it by again and again indulging in sense gratification. So that's why it does not, it takes long time. Then Vishnu Jana Maharaj, he was also accompanying them. He asked another question. Prabhupada, Chota Haridas, he was in the company of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he took that association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He should have become Lav Matra, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. So does it mean he poured water, he became wet by sinful activity when he contemplated about that woman, having lusty desire for that woman? Isn't it? So Prabhupada said yes. So then Prabhupada said even further, he asked the question, how did Chota Haridas achieve perfection by killing himself when he had contemplated about this sinful life? So Prabhupada became very grave and he replied, his instance was that even an associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can fall down. So Prabhupada is saying, this is the instruction, by this incidents we can understand. It is a free will of the living entity. One may be in the association of a pure devotee, one may be in the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, but even he can fall down. And if one falls down, his punishment is suicide. There is no other punishment. Otherwise, he is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's personal servant. He cannot fall down. So actually, personal servant of the Lord, like Arjuna, they cannot fall down. Pure devotees of the Lord, they cannot fall down. But Prabhupada is saying, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to show this. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed in this incident, even one is my personal servant, he can fall down. And if anyone, by any cause he falls down, his punishment is he must commit suicide. This is the instruction. So when Prabhupada said, so everybody became very silent and everybody's eyes opened up. And then Vishnu Jana Swami, who was asking these questions, when he heard that, anybody who has fallen down like this, the punishment for them, the instruction for them is that he must commit suicide. So he immediately went backside. And then, other devotees went in front. And then Satswarup Maharaj, he started asking questions. And then Prabhupada started elaborating on that. Prabhupada said, the living entities are very small, they are minute by nature. And that is why Maya, which is very strong, sometimes overpowers the living entity. He becomes captivated by the influence of Maya. So, that's why we must be very, very cautious when we are walking the path of spiritual life. And by chance, if we fall down on that path of spiritual life, the result is, or the punishment is, atonement is, you must commit suicide. So then Satsarup Maharaj asked, but Prabhupada, it is said in Nectar of Devotion, you have written in that Nectar of Devotion, that isn't it that the best atonement, there is no other atonement required for whatever sinful life one may have committed. The best atonement is simply to chant the holy name of the Lord. So Prabhupada said, yes, Chota Haridas Thakur's case was not typical case. His was exemplary punishment enacted between him and the Lord. You see? So Prabhupada is pointing out, this is an exemplary act. It was enacted between the Supreme Lord and his own servant. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was Vajradapi Kathorat. Whenever it was required, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was harder than the thunderbolt and softer than the rose. Then Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, Prabhupada, if you had been so strict like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so then Prabhupada immediately interfered and said, no, I am not Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Why are you comparing me? I am an ordinary man. And then Guru Kripa Maharaj again brought up that question which was lingering in many devotees' mind. They have all read through that reading of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's, that pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, chastising Chota Haridas, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saying, yes, he has done correct. And Prabhupada writing from Bhakti Vinod Thakur, that Bhakti Vinod Thakur also says that if one wants the shelter of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and if he has committed gross sin like this, he must commit suicide, then there is possibility of attaining the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, otherwise there is no possibility. So they were all confused that what is to be done. So this question was lingering in their mind. So now this was an opportunity. So Guru Kripa Maharaj directly asked this question. So in ISKCON, if someone falls down, does it mean he should commit suicide? So it's a direct question. So Prabhupada then replied, no. And then, so everybody started laughing. So then Guru Dasa Maharaj said, because if that was the case, then our whole movement, nobody would have been there. Because practically everybody is a fallen soul. Then Prabhupada clarified, yes, no. If he falls down, that is automatically a suicide. If he falls down, that is a suicide. He got the chance. If he falls down, that is a spiritual suicide. If one gets the chance of becoming eligible for going back to Godhead, and if one commits mistake and it is stopped, is that not suicide? So Prabhupada is saying that itself is a suicide. When one is stopping his Krishna consciousness, he got a chance to go back to Godhead, and if he is committing this sinful life, he is stopping his chance to go back to Godhead. That itself is a spiritual suicide. So then what should be done? So Prabhupada then said, one should be very strong-minded and continue the devotional service with determination. So actually that is what is required. So we should not misunderstand and think that if we have contemplated about these kinds of things, and here we are seeing the example of Brahma, and we are seeing the example of Chota Haridas, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rejected him from the company. So sometimes it may be, sometimes the devotee may misunderstand. Actually, it so happened in one of our temples in Jaipur that one of the devotee, he took this very, very seriously, and he was not able to control his mind and senses and probably whatever. And then he went to the confluence of Ganges, and he was, it seems the people who were there, he was saying to those people, my Guru has rejected me, Prabhupada has rejected me, so I am not eligible, I am committing suicide. And he went and dropped himself in the confluence in Allahabad, and later on his body was discovered like that. So, they are not able to understand properly. Here Prabhupada was clearly asked. Here we are seeing the example of Brahma. Brahma is in that most exalted position. So whatever act he is doing is basically to set an example. Here also Prabhupada is saying with Chota Haridas that actually there was no question of his fall down. He was his personal servant. But he wanted to show that even one may be my personal servant, if one is not careful in spiritual life, he can fall down. That is the instruction. And when Prabhupada is asked this question directly, so Prabhupada is directly saying that actually just by the fall down itself, that itself is a spiritual suicide. So in that sense, one has already committed suicide. What is the use of committing the suicide of the body? Isn't it? So, Prabhupada's instruction is, even if one has fallen down, the most important thing is, one must be very strong-minded and continue his devotional service with determination. Actually, that is what the Vedic literature points out. See, if you see here, in this verse itself, Prabhupada explains this principle in the next paragraph. Prabhupada says, first of all, Prabhupada points out how much grievous is this sin of illicit sex life. It is very, very grievous sin. So in this paragraph, you should all read this. Prabhupada is saying, this is a lesson for the living entities, showing how sinful an act is to indulge in unrestricted sex life. So this is a lesson for all living entities to understand. Brahmaji is showing by his own example that how important is to understand how sinful it is to indulge in unrestricted sex life. And then Prabhupada is saying, how to understand that? Even to think of abominable sex is sinful. Even to think. And that is what Brahma is showing. He did not indulge. Isn't it? It was just a contemplation in his mind. So even that itself is sinful. And to compensate for such sinful act, one has to give up his body. What does it mean? Prabhupada is saying, in other words, one's duration of life, blessings, opulence, all these things will decrease. You see? You can see here, he had a fabulous life, his life decreased. He had been blessed to be posted in such a position, he had to give up that body. And then, being in that position, he is the master, he is the primeval living entity of this universe. He had to lose that opulence also. So similarly, Prabhupada is saying, by engaging in sinful life, especially in unrestricted sex life, you are decreasing blessings, you are decreasing your opulence, and you are decreasing your lifespan also. Actually, it's a fact. Varieties of diseases will affect the body when one is engaged in unrestricted sex life. Somebody asked this question to Prabhupada. Prabhupada, isn't it good then that better now the scientists have got different kinds of arrangements by which, one can, suppose a man is losing his semen, then one can plan to get operated so that the semen does not come out at all. Let lusty desire be there. doesn't matter, and then we don't lose semen. So then Prabhupada said that this is foolishness, this is gross ignorance. What it is said in the Vedic literature is to control the semen so that instead of flowing downward, the semen flows upward. What do you get by blocking the semen itself? Isn't it? So this is ignorance. It is not said that the semen has to be blocked. The semen flow has to be directed upward. Urdhvaretasa, it is said. That semen has to flow upward, not downward. And that is not by some kind of artificial means. It is by means of controlling our senses. So, that is what the Vedic literature points out, that actually, just try to imagine. It is said how many drops of blood, anyone remembers? How many drops of blood makes one drop of semen? Raghutan? Do you remember? Ram Gopal? Huh? 7 drops. No, I think it's many, I think. So, okay, I don't remember, we can try to find out. But it is many drops of the blood and it is the finest of the blood which factually goes into making even 1 drop of semen. Just imagine, it is so important. And that semen has the potency to give life. You see? And we are wasting that away. So you can imagine how much we are deteriorating our lifespan, our health, our opulence, all these things will go away. And the example given here is that that body of Brahma, which was filled with so much sins, factually what happened to it? It became into thick fog, dark fog. That is what it is represented. And that thick fog is what covers our life, what covers our knowledge. So in the next paragraph, Prabhupada is pointing that out. Ignorance is the cause of sinful life. Why do we commit sins? Because of ignorance. Or sinful life is the cause of gross ignorance. Or another way, if we understand, the more we get engaged, the more we are engaging ourselves in sinful life, the more this thick fog or ignorance will cover our life. It will be very difficult to come out of this ignorance. The feature of ignorance is darkness or fog. But then Prabhupada is saying both darkness or fog can be immediately dissipated the moment there is sun of Krishna consciousness. So even though our life may be filled with fog or darkness, if we awaken the sun of Krishna consciousness, immediately this thick fog or this darkness can be dissipated. And the same thing is very nicely discussed in Srimad Bhagavatam when Parikshit Maharaj asked this question. So we will stop with that. Parikshit Maharaj asked this question, the same question which Arjuna had placed in Bhagavad Gita. Why do people commit sins? So Parikshit Maharaj also replied that it is because of these lusty desires a person commits this sinful life. And then he asked, how can a person be saved from committing this sinful life? How can a person be saved from going to hellish condition of life? So in response to that, Shukdev Goswami started answering. So Shukdev Goswami first said, one should atone. He should take to the process of atonement. And so he said, if a person atones for his sinful life, he can immediately get rid of whatever the reactions of his sinful life is there. So Parikshit Maharaj immediately rejected that process. So Prabhupada explains in that purport that actually Shukdev Goswami wanted to test how sincere and how intelligent his disciple Parikshit Maharaj is. because we should place important inquiries, not foolish inquiries. So this was very intelligent inquiry. So Shukdev Goswami wanted to test his intelligence. So he gave him an answer. Yes, atonement is good. Let the person atone. So he was very intelligent. He said, no, what is the use of atonement? Then he said, so Parikshit Maharaj gave that example. Isn't it like Kunjara Shochavat? This is like an elephant taking a bath. You atone for your sinful life, but are you freed from desire to commit sin? What is the use? You atone for it and once again become dirty. The elephant is taking a very good bath. After it goes out, it takes a mud bath. So you atone and then again you commit sinful life. What is the use? So then he replied, Shukdev Goswami replied, yes, you are correct. This is a subordinate process. Better process is vimarshanam. One should cultivate knowledge. And knowledge is like the fire. So the moment there is fire, all sinful life will burn to ash. So that he accepted. Yes, it is better process than atonement, but still, even this has a problem. So he said, with the fire of knowledge, one can burn the sinful desires. One can burn the sinful life, but still the sinful desires will remain as seed. So he gave the example, suppose there is a huge jungle and then you burn the whole jungle to ash. Right? But after some time, when there is rainy season, once again the whole jungle will grow. Why? Seeds are still there only what is burnt is from external. The seeds are not burnt. So that still remains. And then, finally, Shukdev Goswami gave him the example that it is just like, so in today's Niharam, it is said, the sinful body of Brahma became like a fog or darkness. So he says, Niharam iva bhaskara. That is the ultimate method. Just like, even if there is a thick fog, even if there is huge darkness, the moment sun rises, immediately the whole darkness will vanish away. And in response to that, he related the story of Ajamila, that how just by beginning to chant the holy name of the Lord, and even chanting unknowingly the holy name of the Lord, a great sinful person who had done all kinds of sinful activities. Forget about Brahma's contemplation. Ajamila had done illicit sex, prostitution, gambling, all kind of sinful life. But even then, just by taking to the holy name of the Lord, just by chanting the holy name of the Lord, he was relieved of all sinful life. He was given another chance, and then he became perfected in his life by taking to devotional service with determination. So we'll stop with this. Granth Raj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.